First and foremost, I want to say hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Jessica Stouffer. I am a Master of Social Work student here at CSU Stanislaus. And I'm also the lead symposium organizer for the Tapestry of Social Justice Symposium. Today, this symposium seeks to engage the collective community regarding current social justice issues in a meaningful way. Change leaders from our community have been invited to speak from various parts of the interwoven social justice tapestry about social justice issues to both the local and global community. It is intended that you will leave empowered with a passion to do more within your community to advance social justice efforts. I hope the dialogue surrounding issues presented will spread throughout communities and lead to action and true transformative change. Apathy will perish, while grounded optimism leading to true social justice will blossom. So for a few housekeeping notes, we are filming and photographing today's event. The photographs and films will be made available online so that people from all over the world, regardless of educational privilege, will have access to the content of today's event. Videos and photographs may also be used for promotional or educational purposes. If you do not wish to be filmed or photographed, please let one of our volunteers know right away. So volunteers, can you please stand up? These are our volunteers. And while they're standing, can we give them a round of applause? So without their help, this event would not be possible today. My deepest gratitude goes out to you all. So if for some reason you don't want to be filmed or photographed, please let one of them know, and we can take care of that for you. The videos and photographs from today's event will be made available online on the CSU Stanislaus Master of Social Work webpage and on other internet forums. To learn where and when to access this content, you can also follow us on our Symposium Facebook page. So water and cookies are available in the back. Please help yourselves. Courtesy parking for this event is available in lot 2. So if you're from off campus, or if you do not possess a parking pass and you're parked somewhere and you don't have a parking pass, we don't want you to get a ticket. So if you're not in lot 2, move your car or go get a day pass, please. Restrooms are located outside these doors right here. And there's also an all gender restroom located in the basement of this building. If you need to step outside or leave early, please be courteous to the speakers and those sitting by you. So being that this is a social justice event, it's important for us to define social justice as we see it here today. There are many variations upon the meaning of social justice, but the one that has been guiding today's symposium has been adapted from the Stan State MSW program and is as follows. Social justice is to attempt to improve the quality of all people's lives by promoting and pursuing the redistribution of power and control of social primary goods, including liberty and opportunity, income and wealth, and the basis of self-respect, so that all members of society can become more fully human. Social justice is based on the belief that all individuals in society have a right to civil liberties, equal opportunity, fairness, and participation in political, economic, educational, and social realms. Social justice in action involves seeking social change by working with, organizing, and inspiring others to create solutions to social, economic, and political oppression and injustice. It has been said that the principle of association is the first law of democracy. If this is the case, then it stands to reason that social justice must be a fundamental goal of a democratic society. Social justice serves as a lens for operationalizing the principle by which association in daily life occurs. It should be noted that social justice is a process, not an outcome. As an MSW student, like many of you here today, I have a professional and ethical obligation to pursue social justice for all human beings. And if you're here today and you aren't an MSW student or a social work professional, but you too have a professional or just a personal obligation to social justice efforts, welcome. In today's current climate, with the mass oppression, discrimination, and violations of human rights that are occurring throughout the world, our nation, and even right here in our local communities, it is essential that we come together in formats such as this to share ideas, find community, and take action. So, today, I have invited 4 amazing speakers who work tirelessly for social justice. Directly after each speaker talks, we will then open it up for questions and answers. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker today is John. John Black is a native Californian who doesn't care for labels. He spent years traveling around the country working carnivals before schizophrenia dug its hooks into him. John spent 10 years on the streets of Modesto, but had his mother and father's home to reside in. He began his recovery as a volunteer at a community alcohol treatment drop-in center. From that experience, John learned how important it was to prevent people in treatment from being isolated and turned that experience into a career. John found that this work and staying closely connected with others improved his own mental health. Today, John is back on the streets of Modesto as CEO of Peer Recovery Art Project, a nonprofit gallery downtown. Peer Recovery Art Project is a collaborative that empowers mental health consumers to take part in the arts and other activities that improve wellness and connect people to the community. The goal is to demolish old attitudes and make sure those with mental health life experiences are not blocked from finding their rightful place in our community. So let's go ahead and welcome John.
I've been a loving husband. I've been a homeless person. I've been a graduate from this university with Phi Kappa Phi honors at over 50 years old. I've been a Student Disability Award winning of the year at MJC. I have won the scholarship program to universities from Eli Lilly, and I have won the #1 mentoring award for the nation for mentoring people within this feeble idea that in my little factory, and I have hair, that I had found not so much to help you or those wonderful people in the audience to find their ways back to the community. But my goodness, I was hungry that I someday could find my way back. And today marks the attempt to continue as hard as I can to someday find that place where I belong. And when I look at Emerald, Melanie, Maria, I found it. Let's give them a hand for being here. So what do you think that has to do with anything in this modern times of the struggles in the Central Valley and the strong heritages of the Central Valley that has farmed the land and that has dug in the soil and that is now afraid to come out of their homes because they might be arrested and taken somewhere where they don't belong? I was a migrant worker. I was born in Sacramento. My brother was born in Phoenix, Arizona. My father settled in Modesto on Boulder Avenue in the heart of the barrio in a $50 a month home payment. You know why he came to Modesto? Because his grandfather, my grandfather, his father, was a worker for the city of Patterson, and he was getting old, my daddy needed to be close to him. So his grandkids, me, my brother, and my sister Karen, could experience what family is in the heart of the womb of heritage, culture, and respect. So the migrant work that we did, we traveled in carnivals. And it was no different. It was no different than the migrant workers today that were hiding from the IRS, or ICE, as you call it. I didn't even use my real name till I was 25 years old. I didn't use it because I was going to get on welfare. I didn't use it because I had all I needed. I used it because I was a hardworking man that didn't know how to do business models, that if my model would have been exposed, they would have took it out from under me. So on them rare occasions, not that rare, when I wound up in jail and the guys come to bail me out, and when they come there and they use my other name, and the jailer looks at me straight in the eye and he says, "Mr. Black, why does everybody come to this jailhouse to get you but doesn't know your name?" And I said, "Sir, have you ever been called black? That's stigma. And do you know what it's like for a bunch of these guys that travel in this traveling road show? You know what we are. We're dirty. We're the carnival people. Remember, we're the gypsies. We tell your fortunes. We're the ones that are looked down on." Is that not what's going on in America today to our beautiful people? Name your color. Name your cause. But our organization was all inclusive. There was no poverty. There was no unemployment. There was no welfare lines. There was no car loans. There was no carjackings, unless we went and got a car. We had a self-supporting organization designed through our own contributions. The only problem was, as you know, the day people, you can clearly see we're the night people. But the day people, you know them, they work at, Turkey Tech was here when I was at the Turlock Fairgrounds. My first spot, first time I set up a thing was on the midway at Turlock Fair. And before that, my mentor's wife, who became a school teacher, went to Turkey Tech when it was in the barns at the fairgrounds, or something even worse than that, this story tells it. But this is history, ladies and gentlemen. Why ain't we talking history and we're trying to make this a mystery? We got to tell them where this heart and soul came from, and you can't be pretending like it didn't happen. People died for this to be on this campus. This is not a frickin' pleasure. People died to give us this education. You guys know what death means to an individual like me? Watch. It doesn't come back. So one of the things that I really understand about the scope of practice, and I wanna tell you what a system of change looks like to me. Set change. This is who you see. This is who you get. My name is John Black. I have schizophrenia. But guess what? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? And this is the number one thing I'm more proud of than anything in my life. At this moment, with you wonderful people, as you look me straight in the eye, as honest as I can be, I'm just god darn glad. See, I clean my voice up. That schizophrenia no longer has me. So we go on with the story. But first I want to bring this back down because I get a little. One of the things that I don't want to do here is that I'm trying to bring kindness. And when I start feeling like I do right now, I got to bring this whole room back down. Not for you, but for the respect of you and for all the heritages. Can you just focus right now for a minute on all the beautiful people in your lives? Your kindergarten teacher, your uncles, your aunts, these people that you knew that are no longer here that made you who you are. You young people that are now here that understand what that means, just feel this in your heart. We'll bring you to a time and a place where there's no worry. Where you sit on your grandpa's lap and he says, son, I can tell you right now that this world is nothing but luck. I said, I thought so, but I'm going to tell you something else, son. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And then I just want to pause and I want to lift up the spirits of those ancestors. I want them to fly through this room so strong that it leaves me in utter peace. Then I'll get on with my talk. Help me now, because I don't want to bring this unsettled energy that I was starting to get to you people. So help me come back. Thanks. So anyhow, when I start out with a little spill, sometimes I talk about kindness, love, understanding, respect. And then in the first 5 minutes, I find myself flying around the room, throwing shirts over in the corner, running like this. I said, this is a calm one today, John. This is one where you don't do any showmanship. You don't do any of this. You don't say you're 63 years old and you can stand on your head and play violin. You don't say that because it's not fair. But what happens in this thing? So now I'm in migrant working. You know, I'm digging it. And so we're traveling in the carnival. And at 5 years old, I'm working. Because there's no babysitters. There's no daycare. We all care. So this is my delusions. You know what's the greatest thing? If for those of you that have children in the room, you know what the most greatest thing? And see that organization that used to be so adult, so focused on helping people find their way back. We are now shifting to helping little kids never have to find a way back, to stay loving and whole and develop those brains, those trauma brains that are. I was in a big meeting in San Diego the other day, and the feds are getting hip to this too. So we're building prisons, penitentiaries, correction agencies. We're in a war against crime. And the only one that's winning this war is the correction unions, the state government police, the jail builders, the armed guards, so really what the feds, they know now, because police don't want mental health is not their job. They know it. So what they want to do now is they found, now it's tracked itself. They know that there's a certain amount of time in development of children's brains between like 3 and 7, where the most, it's, or even younger, where that's where your brain, this thing here that did good, but I had a predisposition for something that would elevate later. But it came back. Well, I'm still waiting, but anyhow. So now what we have these little brains that are always in trauma. My little teacher over there that has the children, lived experience raising children out of trauma, is now the trauma-based arts and the hearts programs, a window between worlds, and we already have contracts in the schools, and they're teaching currently. Wells Fargo Bank just funded us through the summer, and she's doing all the negotiations. And guess what I'm going to do? I may go to Nashville, see if I like it there. And these guys are going to teach kids. So back to my story. So we know that if you can reduce the trauma in these brains while they're developing, here's some of the things that we have shown in studies that we already reduce. Childhood pregnancy, truancy, incarceration, recidivism, drug addiction, alcoholism, broken homes, WIC program. So instead of building foster homes, WIC programs, corrections, and we know we've lost that war. Anybody say we won it? I'll raise my hand. I don't think we did. We ain't going to win it. So what they're saying is, we're throwing all this money, and the problem is getting worse. So why don't we stop with the problem that we're treating and really get serious here? The feds are saying, they're demanding that SAMHSA is going to every state, and they're coming in there with some tracking tools from 2008, and they're going to implement them in these states that are tracking this stuff that makes no sense, at least in their block grant programs for federal government money. And it's a tracking tool developed so highly esteemedly in 2008. So anyhow, enough of that. So we'll get back to the carnival. So now I'm out there. I'm 5 years old. I was talking about imagination, if you guys forgot where I was at, because I sure did. But kids have the greatest imagination. So this is how I grew up. And just the other day, I got an awakening. Maybe it was just my imagination. But I'm at the carnival. And I'm in these circus sideshows. And every day, I'd get out there before the carnival opened. I'd go into the wild man's cage. And he would sit behind the cage and we would talk. And he would say, I'd say, man, I didn't say much. He was mentoring me because he had a wig on. He's eating chicken and bones and stuff behind there. We're not open yet. So he's talking to me and he goes, hey. And this is what I heard. And I took this until about 2 months ago and I thought, oh my goodness. But what I thought he told me all these years was, John, you're going to be somebody someday just like me. You'll make it to the big time. And then when I went in there when he was open, he didn't talk. He just screamed and grabbed the bars and jumped and screamed. And I would sit over there in the corner, a little kid, and just go, wow. And then what I kind of figured out the other day, nobody would do that. That one couldn't have happened. So I had that delusion my whole life that was built in a Disneyland studio that manufactured my ability to believe in my heart that someday, somehow, I too could be in the big time. Wow, what a dream. Real or imaginary, what a dream. So now I'm lost again. So that's enough of my childhood. That's enough of my finishing lines. That's enough of everything I do. I'm down to 1 minute. So I'm going to speed it up about 10 feet. I know I can read signs. And so what I was going to say, so now we're down in downtown Minnesota. We got this easel, and we're on the corner of 13th and J. And you know what happens there? We connect individuals together in ways to give hope, direction, and lead to social connection. And you know how we do that? Track it, want a discussion about it. So we moved along, never had any money. And then all of a sudden we found out that we got a contract for like $305,000. And you know what it's like to operationalize something that in your head, one guy, build the tracking tools, get it in place, get the banks, get everything in place before the money gets there, or you're afraid you're going to go to the state penitentiary. And to work it for 7 or 8 years, knowing that every day you're going to the state penitentiary. And then one day, all of a sudden, they release you, and that contracts and all those steps are gone. And you built the most amazing organization in the world, and now you don't have to do that anymore. And how wonderful is that? I really want to be serious about this. Stanislaus County helped me when I was the sickest. Stanislaus County gave me my volunteer job. Stanislaus County Contractor Telecare gave me my outreach job for 10 years. Stanislaus County and the people in this county and the people that I work with and the strong leaders in this community hired me 10 years ago to be the advocate for Stanislaus County. And then 4 years ago, they honored me with the fact that I could redesign the program that I started out as a volunteer and turn it into the Wellness Recovery Center like they've never seen in the nation under a SAMHSA program and operate that successfully to this day. You want to talk about heritage and culture that you owe? I just want to say Stanislaus County, the leadership, the people that work so hard in prevention, early intervention, these folks that are tirelessly trying to find something that will help this hideous disease of mental illness that nobody can put a handle on. And we will always blame the systems, the camera crew, the timekeeper didn't keep the right time. But one of the things that we never do inside of an incubator of gratitude, why don't we just say that disease took my wife who hung herself a year ago? Don't say that's the one that 40 years took me from my family. That's not the one that brought Pete out there, took him away from his family for 25 years. That's not the one that this little boy or these little girls or your brothers or your cousins or your mothers aren't at risk for being snatched out of your family. It's the hideous disease. And you just tag it to whatever you want to do it. Tag it to obesity, kills your daddy. Tag it to heart disease, it kills your mommy. Tag it to little kids that are more obese now than they have been in the history of mankind, because we're going to get them a fast gulp. Tell them I'm gonna close about as soon as did you give me my 1 minute yet? Wow, that was a cool 5 minutes. The first 20 minutes I didn't even know I was there. Man, I could get warmed up if I had another hour. Hey, so anyhow, what I was going to say. So now my trip was the #1 leading killer in men and women, and the thing that develops all forms of disease is stress. That develops everything. Stress activates schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Stress will put you in a room where you think if I isolate, it will be my cure for loneliness. Stress helps us birth unmature babies. Stress drives us to the liquor store in the middle of the night when we should stay home with our kids. But if we could just reduce stress. So here's the book I suggest anybody to read. And this is what my coach told me that I should read and that he could teach me something. And it was my Bible. Dead executives don't get the bonus. Wait a minute. So I lost 80 pounds, eating healthy. I exercise. There's nothing there but muscle. I can run around this track. I drive hot rod cars, park them wherever I want to, wherever I go. And I own this. This is how I'm going to walk from now on. I want you guys to pay attention. I'm going to walk like I got oil wells in my backyard. Nobody will ever know that sometimes this world is so hard. And now I answer questions.
Thank you so much, John. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Emerald Brown. She is a fearless and edgy hip-hop artist and writer from Berkeley, California. Emerald Brown's music and writings carry messages of empowerment and resilience. Emerald has released various projects over time, including Mental Mayhem, Collision Imprint, and most recently, Emerald Brown released Brainstorm, along with visuals for tracks such as Black and Brilliant, asking listeners to define freedom. Emerald Brown continuously shares creative talents through various means and published Chronicles of the Weeping Addicts, a manual for creative souls, where Emerald not only writes about personal struggles with addiction, but stories of other individuals Emerald has encountered along the way. Written in a gritty, humorous, yet encouraging tone, Chronicles of the Weeping Addicts, a manual for creative souls, is comprised of short stories, poetry, and reflection activities with the mission of supporting others through creative healing. So with that, I would like to introduce Emerald.
Creativity has been my means of healing. As a young girl, and the youngest out of 4, 2 girls and 2 boys. Ironically, I only grew up with my older sister. My older brothers were around when I was around 5 years old. In the 90s, my mother relocated my siblings and I from the Bay Area to San Diego. My memories of my brothers fade in the back of my mind. A new neighborhood far from what my brothers were used to. 2 black males in a suburban neighborhood. They were picked out of lineup and accused of a crime they didn't commit. One of my brothers got 4 years, and my eldest brother got 10 years. A witness stated that the males who committed the crime were black males with locks in their hair. My brothers were, in fact, black, but didn't have locks. Instead, clean, faded hair. Yet, 2 young black males were put away senselessly. Years went by, and it was only my sister and I growing up together. And our mother smoked cigarette packs after cigarette packs, Winstons and GPCs back then. She also drank heavily, thinking about her 2 sons who had been taken from her. This put strain on my mother emotionally and financially. The system not only had a negative impact on my brothers, but my entire family as well. When they were released, I had to get to know them as if they were strangers. I watched them struggle. I watched them struggle to fit in back into society. It was hard for them to find jobs and become accustomed to everyday life. They had a stigma attached to them. They felt that stigma when they applied to jobs as well. So, I'm going to share a poem that I actually wrote about my brother. Heart beats for answers, longs genuine laughter. The feelings of worthless depletes what's a given, which is infinite power. The man hides behind the no cry line, building up pain that shows in anger. No one apologized to incapacitated man. No one said that they gave a damn. Instead, they called out his wrongs and made him insecure. The baby boy was emotionally abandoned by a mother who had a mother that was 15 when she had her. Teenage years disappeared behind bars and locked rooms. Freedom in hell, but what for? Cut like a sword, but sucked it in more. Because that's what a man is supposed to do. Provide and never show weakness. When the weakness is the lie that some be telling. Yeah, I'm good. But throat be all tight like fist in civil rights. Some men gave up, only focused on the outcome, no actions taken. That's why we dreaming in the hood and still stuck. I think we need to instill hope, love, and inspiration in the hearts that feel broken and empty. And when I say we, I feel like everyone has a responsibility. We can start small and take actions where we are. My action is through creativity. I strive for social justice, whether that's through spoken word, music, writings. I address oppression, systematic problems, in the hopes of creatively healing. So, with that being said, why talk about it when I can show you guys, right? Let's do it. I'm gonna do some songs for you guys. Woo! Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So this first track is called Assume Too Soon. We always make assumptions when we first meet someone. And come to find out, our assumptions are wrong. We're so quick to judge, we shouldn't be judging. There we go. Cause I am, and I am who I am, who I am. On the inside, on the inside. And who you, and who you, and who you, and who you. Do you realize it's okay, we still gonna go. Hey. We need rules. Hey, I never signed a document or a contract stating that I had to be in school at a certain time. I learned to raise my hand, stand in line, and be submissive. Conditions so classical, robotic, idiotic, no true topic. The plan was strategic and periodic, and we ate it up like it was the Last Supper. False words uttered, control behavior. Listen to the teachers, cause we thought they were greater. So a C plus made us confident, struck the roof when we got an A plus. Measuring intelligence with the same motto. What the fuck? Report cards didn't say I was an artist. And fuck college cause I could learn on my own. It's a system that we follow. We don't ask questions, we just go by the motto. Monkey see, monkey do. I'ma do the same thing to be just like you. Don't assume too. It might fuck up your mood, yeah. It might fuck up your mood. Cause I am and I am who I am, who I am on the inside, on the inside. And who you, and who you, and who you, and who you. Do you realize we set our own boundaries and limitations? We need rules. Hey, wanna sum you up, put you in the box like you're brown, she's white, you're a Christian, he's a Sikh, he's a Muslim. They don't know the difference. Who made up these titles? We was born with many names just to keep us from our truest, purest self. It makes me sick, wanna throw a ball over the carpet. People think they hard when they cocky name at a target. Yeah, we lost like a dog and we begging for the crumbs. We ain't saying truths no more, everything the fucking same. So we make the product plain, like Frito-Lay's. Invisible change, and they got us afraid to take risks and go left field. They were pointing giggle, but secretly, yeah, they know they on some bullshit. They scared of how that might feel to stand out and be real. Take the pressure like a god. Woo! Don't assume too soon, it might fuck up your mood. Can we turn it up? Hey. Cause I am, and I am, and I am who I am, who I am on the inside, on the inside. And who you, and who you, and who you, and who you. Do you realize we set our own boundaries and limitations? We need rules to feel comfortable. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna do two more tracks. Thank you guys. You guys show a lot of love. I appreciate it. Wow. 1 minute already? JB Black. JB Black. Hey. Freedom song. Yeah. I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? So sick and tired of the riot, down to the wire. I will fight, but I wanna know. Do you know what it feel like? Do you know what it feel like? To be stopped by the popos, harassed by the popos, to be shot by the popos. Hey, be what you want without explaining. Roam as you please without fear. It's hard when they always pointing fingers. They see danger, but it's far from the truth. To be honest, I'm trying to let some love shine through. We ain't really free now, we ain't brave. Many lies hidden, got a question, why we believe them? They out to get us, abolish extinction like we don't matter. We a threat in the living rooms amongst the chatter. It's a shame cause they ain't no middle ground. They thrive and we left out. So programmed, can't even figure it out. Are you helping or putting us down? Lights out, dreams ain't dreams. We living in a nightmare. Like who the fuck care now? Really know it's been going on way too long. Lost lives, ain't no excuses. See, I know change gon' come. I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? Tired of the riot, down to the wire. I will fight, but I wanna know. Do you know what it feel like? Do you know what it feel like? To be stopped by the popos,
and harassed by the popos, to be shot by the popo. Sickening, suffering, savage. I'm fed up, yeah, I had it. They shoot like it's the thing to do. Do what they say, cooperate. New age slave, digitized chains. I'm saying, do we really want to live like this? Murdered bros and sis. This is twisted, so backwards in the backwoods, dangling body rope tied around the neck by fire. Yeah, it sound a little bit like history, like we way past that, but are we really? Negative vibes every time I read an article. Like, how could this be? It's not logical. Cause they don't see him as a person or individual, more like an animal, when they're really the animals. Wasn't trained right, wasn't brought up right. Say you ain't guilty in court. I hope it haunts you. I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? I really wanna be free. Do you know what that feel like? What that feel like? What that feel like? So sick and tired of the riot, down to the wire, I will fight. But I wanna know, do you know what it feel like? Do you know what it feel like to be stopped by the police? To be harassed by the police, to be shot by the police, to be killed by the police. This is a transparent song. Mike Chubb. Yeah. I've been persistent, aiming like I'm not gonna miss it. I seen crack when I was 12 on the bathroom shelf. I started rapping to get out all the pain I felt. I seen things you wouldn't believe in a nightmare dream. I was deep in the streets, right below the hill. High school mates made it sign with a deal. Liquor poured in my cup till it tipped over. I was finished, I was over, but the voice in my head said, get out your sorry slumber. The art brought me hunger. Music is my baby, I'm so sensitive, fool. They only see the surface, they ain't seen the pain, they ain't seen the struggle or the failure or the triumph. When I was broke, slanging EBT, trying to pay my rent, trying to get that extra 60. I was pulling strings in the cold damn city, trying to chase dreams where them angels fly. Hi, don't tell me nothing, don't tell me shit. You ain't seen what I seen with these pair of eyes. You ain't walked what I walked through, empathize. You will run away so quick and throw in a towel. How can you add your 2 cents to the topic? How can you add your 2 cents? Stages to this shit, it don't happen overnight. Nah, hey, let's talk about how I'm still sane after a breakup with E and J. Daddy gone and my mama passed away. Pop died on his birthday, 2 years apart in their departure. I got questions that'll never be answered. Why they don't really know me? See, I went through downs on a personal decline. Merlots and different kinds of wines. And my crew was on some bullshit parties. And when I see, I ain't gonna lie, I did the same shit too. I couldn't walk down the street without somebody saying, hey you, hey you. See, I'm headed to the store. Do you wanna chill or not? I think I seen you at a club. You was tearing shit up. I'm like, hell yeah, man. I'm hungover as fuck. I come from a soil where we put in work. A city where we put you in place like decorations. I've been running from my past self. Hey man, don't tell me nothing. Don't tell me shit. You ain't seen what I seen with these pair of eyes. You ain't walked what I walked through, empathize. You will run away so quick and throw in a towel. How can you add your 2 cents to the topic? How can you add your 2 cents? Stages to this shit, it don't happen overnight. Nah, it don't happen overnight. Thank you guys.
So, you guys are filled with a lot of love here. I appreciate it. So that song right there, I wrote that in hindsight of my addiction to alcohol. It was one of the most transparent songs I've ever written, but not the most transparent material. The most transparent material that I've written is this book, Chronicles of the Weeping Addict. I'll give you a brief history of how it came about. So I moved to LA in pursuit of my dreams, as do a lot of people. But in my addiction, it was like a spur of the moment type of deal, so I just went. And I remember being on the Greyhound bus, and I had on a hoodie, and I had a bunch of shot bottles of brandy liquor in my pocket. And I was drinking on my way there. And when I got there, I ended up in Skid Row. So I got the chance to see a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering in Skid Row. It was like a completely different world. But eventually, I got help. Not in LA, but I moved out of Skid Row and eventually got an apartment out there and actually was living pretty good. I'm gonna read a poem out of this book. It's called Addiction Would Have You. It's pretty raw. Addiction will have you curled up in fetal position, terrified. Addiction will have you broke and evicted, wondering what the hell really happened. Addiction will have you lost in blank thought. Addiction will have you sleep on public transportation till closing. Addiction will have you hitchhiking in the early mornings. Addiction will have you in the back of police vehicles on the way to county, but be damned lucky if they actually took your ass home. Addiction will have you punched, bitch slapped, cussed out, dragged out of Hollywood hotels by security, bleeding. Addiction will have you looking stupid as fuck, singing hallelujahs in the middle of intersections while sports cars maneuver around you. Addiction will have you either permanent or temporarily psychotic. Addiction will have you with lost limbs and bullet wounds. Addiction will have you forgetting to eat, pee, even defecate. Addiction will have you locked up but too dumb enough to conjure up and escape. Addiction will have you feeling blue with no friends or grown kids to even run to. Addiction will have you driving drunk, hitting parked cars, flipping over and leaving with only a bruise. Addiction will have you feeling invulnerable, indomitable, unconquerable, basically invincible. Addiction will have you teary-eyed from vanished dreams. Addiction will have you reminiscing about those once upon a times. Addiction will have you unemployed, shit out of luck, with only your drug of choice to enjoy. Addiction will have you confused about what day of the week it is, Wednesday, but Monday you have business to tend to. Addiction will have you begging for change, clothes, and shoes. Addiction will have you in midnight alleys, lying in trash debris, surrounded by flesh-eating rats, used needles, and prostitutes. Addiction will have you living with regrets. Addiction will have you bleeding profusely, getting tattoos half finished. Addiction will have you stale, rotten, discombobulated, barely functioning properly, far from orderly. Addiction will have you searching for God, Allah, Buddha, Dalai Lama, alternative medicines, past boyfriends or girlfriends. Addiction will have you facing mirrors with distorted reflections, consumed and flooded. Guilt and embarrassment sheds light onto your soul. Addiction will have you trembling, heart pounding from chests. Well, that is the heart that you have left. Addiction will have you nauseated, gagging, paranoid that everyone can see when no one, really no one, gives a fuck. Addiction will have you sober for 2 days to rid hangovers. Addiction will have you drinking just to cure hangovers. Catch 22. Addiction will have you cracking brandy fifths in the cereal aisle at Food Co. Addiction will have you drinking on 15-minute breaks in your company's restroom. Addiction would have you using all your colognes and perfumes, still reeking from pores. The Trident commercial didn't do what it was supposed to. Damn it. Addiction will have you substituting one for the other. Addiction will have you in gurneys, ambulances, on your second IV. Addiction will have you waking up with strangers and wanting to leave ASA. Addiction will have you divorced, splitting assets. Addiction will have you faintly panting, struggling to hold on. Addiction will have you slowly turning Alaskan cold. Suddenly, your lips turn blackish purple. Eyes dilate, contract. Surrounding sound loses its reverberation. 5 senses gone within milliseconds. Spirit emerges, lighter than air, in between, limbo. The energy still lingers. You probably slipped away in another addict's fingers. Strong pull. This life force will not change the course of your direction now. Floating on black clouds. Tears are raindrops now. What legacy did you leave? Who did you love? Who loved you? Addiction will have you gasping for air as you are engulfed by dark, cold waves. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Emerald. Okay, this is the point in today where we are going to do some resource sharing and some networking with one another. But first, I wanted to point out just a couple of things. Everyone should have received an event evaluation when you walked in. If you did not, we should still have some on the table outside. Or Dixie in the back. Wait, put your hand up, Dixie. She has them. So if you have not received an event evaluation, please grab one from her, and be sure to complete it and drop it off at the table outside before leaving today. We still have 2 more speakers, but it's really important that we receive those back from you guys. I also wanted to point out that we have some beautiful artwork that was brought today. Social justice isn't just this kind of like academic thing to talk about. I love bringing the visuals, the creativity to it. And so over here we have some beautiful artwork that was brought by Peer Recovery Art Project. Emerald has a table back there. And then we also have Daniel Mejia, artist, over here. He brought some of his wonderful artwork. And then also Maria Moore brought this beautiful painting. And Maria is going to be our next speaker coming up. And so she'll be able to talk a little bit about that. Daniel, did you want to say anything about your artwork real quick? Okay, cool.
So, buenas tardes, everyone. My name is Daniel Mejia. It's impromptu on the mic. First, I'd like to thank the organizers for putting this on and for the invitation to come and show my artwork. I live in Patterson, California. That's where I grew up, just around the way. I went to school at Fresno State where I studied printmaking, and that's exactly what I came to share with you all today in the form of my artwork that's there in the back tables. And I also have a huge wood block that I've been working on for a few years now. So you can actually see what it is that I do as I'm doing it in the process. The artwork that I focus on is culturally based as far as indigenous roots. It's on the hat, native roots. My family comes from Nochisnan, Zacatecas, that's land of the Cascanes, Chichimeca descendancy. And I found a lot of healing through indigenous ceremonies, and it comes through in my art. The images that I use are images that I've learned about through these ceremonies, through research, through basically just living out what has been taught to me, and that's what I like to show through the artwork, in hopes that the symbols that other folks can also find their own stories, their own healing, their own methods of living in a good way. And so, yeah, if anyone would like to see it, it's in the back. And ask questions, please.
Thank you. Okay. So if Jenny wants to come up here, Jenny is going to be our mic person. So this so this whole portion we'll take around 10 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less, but this is the part where we would like you all as the audience members to share events that are going on here locally that are socially justice oriented. For example, Jenny has one, so I'll hand it over to her. Okay, and after she's done, if you have one, please, raise your hand, stand up, yell, "Hey, Jenny," and she'll come over to you, and you guys can announce it. And what we will do is that Sam over there is taking notes, and we're going to post this information on our Facebook page. Okay? There you go.
All right, so I'm going to start it off. So April 29th, there is a Chicano Youth Conference at Fresno City College. It's being hosted by Mecha de Fresno City College. It's a public event open to middle schoolers and high school students. I really recommend that you tell your siblings, tell your neighbors, tell your friends. It's a great opportunity for youth to start thinking about college and to really just get to know other youth their age. It's from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., again at Fresno City College, and they do have a Facebook event page if you would like to get more information. So anyone else? Events?
So I'm representing Justice for Kayla Moore, and we recently had a mental health forum in which we discussed ways and options of eliminating the police when it comes to mental health calls. So we're having a follow-up meeting on May 6th in Berkeley, and you can find the information on the Justice for Kayla Coalition website.
This is an event it's an event I'm going to, and it's happening tonight. Jeff Denham is having a town hall at I think it starts at 6 o'clock tonight in Denair. And as many people as we can get together to go there and show up and let him know that we don't agree with his policies. And he's supporting Donald Trump almost verbatim, his policies. This is where we live, and so we need to show up and tell them no.
Thank you.
So I guess just wanted to invite everyone. Since we're talking about Fresno, there's going to be an Indigenous artist exhibition in Fresno on May 4th for the Art Hop. It's a Thursday. I know it's not very easy for folks up here, but still. It's a group show at Tower District Records. If anyone is interested, I can pull up the information back here.
All right, thank you so much, guys. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to our next speaker, which is Maria. So let me switch mics here. Okay. So Maria Moore was born and raised in Berkeley, California, with her sister Kayla and their father. Maria's sister Kayla Moore, a Black transgender mentally disabled woman, was killed by Berkeley police when friends called for a mental health evaluation. Maria and her family have filed a wrongful death claim against the city, which is now in the hands of the federal court system. Maria has fought tirelessly alongside her family to seek justice for Kayla by seeking to secure systematic structures that do not allow untrained law enforcement agencies to be first responders to mental health emergencies. Maria also demands the Berkeley Police Department be held accountable for the death of Kayla and end their attacks against Black, brown, disabled, and/or transgender individuals. Above all, Maria asks you to tell Kayla's story and #SayHerName. Maria graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology from UC Berkeley in 1995. Maria has one daughter and resides in Oakland, California. So I'd like to welcome Maria and thank her for driving all the way out here today.
All right, thank you guys. just bear with me. Today is Kayla's birthday. So on paper, she would have been 45 years old, but in her world, she would have been 39. So happy 39th birthday again. So it's been over 4 years since Kayla was killed in her home by Berkeley police. Her death has been deeply felt by many different communities. She was the absolute poster girl for intersectionality. What did she do, you ask? Was she threatening? Was she suicidal? Was she a danger to society? No, Kayla was mentally ill, Black, and transgender. Those 3 criteria alone made her a target, as African American, transgender women, and the mentally disabled are killed at an alarming rate due to police encounters. The reality is the mentally disabled account for 1 in 4 of all fatal police encounters. Family and friends call the only people they can when a loved one is in crisis the police, and it's truly a national crisis. So I need to give you guys a little bit of background on what exactly happened that night. So Kayla, she had waited months to get affordable housing in Berkeley, and she finally did. And within less than 6 months, she was murdered. And I say it was murder because that's exactly what it was. Kayla was at home. She was cooking dinner for her friends. Kayla loved to cook, and the girl loved to eat. So she was doing what she did best and entertaining. And her roommate felt that Kayla was a little bit off. You know, Kayla was she was actively psychotic, which doesn't really mean anything. She was just in her own world. She was, talking to her voices and people that weren't necessarily there, but she was happy and she was in a good mood. The roommate felt she needed medication, which due to the lack of mental health services, she wasn't able to see a psychiatrist for months. And when she finally did go to her appointment, only to be turned away because the doctor couldn't see her. So when the police arrived, they didn't talk to Kayla. They didn't talk to the roommate. They ran a warrant check on the roommate who called for help. So the roommate felt Kayla needed medication, called dispatch, who then brought the police. So once again, they already criminalized Kayla before they even met her. And they criminalized her because she was mentally disabled. So they ran a warrant check on the roommate, and they found that this person did have a warrant in San Francisco. So, the person who called for help, they promptly put him in the police car. And they ran a warrant check on Kayla. And what came up was an old invalid warrant for someone who had her birth name, Xavier Moore. The date of birth was incorrect. This is someone 20 years older than Kayla. It was not a valid warrant. But what the Officer Brown decided to do was she was going to arrest Kayla. She took the roommate out of the car, had him unlock Kayla's door, put him back in the car, called Kayla to the door, and Kayla answered. She was polite, and she was a little bit terrified seeing the officers, but she wasn't violent. She wasn't aggressive. She wanted to know what was going on. And after talking to Kayla for about 5 minutes, she told Kayla, well, you're going to jail. And of course, Kayla's terrified. She didn't understand what she had done wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. So in Kayla's mind, she was going to make a phone call to the FBI and get this all straightened out. When she turned to make the phone call, the officers grabbed her. Kayla pulled back, and they fell into her room on top of a futon, and that's when the struggle ensued. Within seconds, there were 6 to 8 officers on top of her. And once again, Kayla's a big girl. They had her face down on her stomach with all that weight on top of her, at least 800 to 1,000 pounds of people on top of her. And they were trying to get her into what was called a wrap device, which is a way to restrain. Basically, it's a way to hog tie someone, their legs and their hands. And Kayla was screaming. She was yelling. She was telling them to get off me. You're hurting me. And once they finally got her into this device, they realized that she was quiet. They managed to check on each other. And after 2 minutes of realizing that Kayla was quiet, they turned her over and realized that she had stopped breathing. So the one officer attempted what I call bullshit CPR. He did the chest compressions. But Officer Brown refused to put her mouth on Kayla's and give her the life-saving breaths to get oxygen to her brain. She left her face mask in the car because, and it's okay if you leave your face mask in a car to let someone die. If that had been her sister, she wouldn't have hesitated. But they didn't see Kayla as a person, they saw her as an it. And that's exactly what they called her. During the struggle, Kayla was in her moo-moo, it came apart. And the officer looked at her while she was exposed and said, well, what is it? Is it a he or a she? And to hear, that's exactly how they felt about her. She was an it. She didn't deserve to live. And since then, we have been, last 4 years, have been trying to get justice for her. And it's really hard, this being her birthday, because she loved her birthday. All right. Berkeley is a town where 35% of police calls are in response to people with some form of mental illness. And yet, crisis intervention training, CIT, has been trimmed down to a voluntary 40 hours of training to now a mandatory 8-hour training for all officers in direct contact with the public. So not only are they not properly trained, they're getting less training than they did before. The officers who responded to Kayla's call for mental health treatment for 5150 did not have CIT training or mobile crisis, which are trained mental professionals to assist with assessing Kayla. Kayla lived in a town where someone who wants help dealing with a mental health crisis can either leave a message for mobile crisis or call a non-emergency number and speak with a police dispatcher. Kayla lived in a town that will really routinely send a fire truck, an ambulance, and anyone from 4 to 10 police officers in response to a call for help, but no one with the training to deliver actual mental health assistance. Unfortunately, killing a Black woman in crisis is becoming more and more common. Police misconduct is not just a male experience, as women of color are losing their lives to this violence. Transgender women of color are stopped, harassed, assaulted, and murdered by police with impunity. This past year has seen unprecedented organizing, action, and attention around Black women's experience of policing. However, more needs to be done to foster an environment where being a transgender woman is not a crime and not to be shamed. Andrea Ritchie, an attorney specializing in police misconduct, states, when people look or act queer or gender nonconforming, police often read that as disorder, and they often perceive that person as already disorderly, as already suspicious, as already prone to violence. For those with mental disabilities, the constant dehumanization is debilitating. Let's not shame or hide our mentally disabled, but show that there's hope and normalcy can be achieved. Kayla was so proud that she was able to find affordable housing in the city she was born and raised. She felt connected to Berkeley. But the sad reality is the Berkeley we knew 20 years ago no longer exists. There is no tolerance if you are mentally disabled or homeless. The police don't want to see you, and heaven help you if you sit on the street corner for too long. A gap in services has been created over the years, and the crisis that currently exists was long in the making. Now there are forces in Berkeley that would prefer to simply run the mentally disabled, homeless, and others who just can't cut it out of town through a combination of economic apartheid and police intimidation. This is a situation that has developed gradually, and many good people fail to notice or protest. Demeaning stereotypes of leftist culture and dismissive remarks like, oh, that's so berserkly, mask the tragic reality about the number of people who are actually suffering from mental disabilities and not receiving adequate care. The militarization of mental health is also becoming a national issue. The transfer of military weapons, vehicles, and techniques is well documented and has costs of billions of dollars. At the same time as they are receiving military training, cops are also expected to be the first ones to deal with people on the streets with mental disabilities, because the funds for real mental health workers are now non-existent. At times, people have to get arrested to go to jail before they can access certain city services. In 2005, it was noted that people with mental disabilities were 16 times more likely to be killed by police than those without. As new social workers, you need to ask yourself, are you equipped with the skills to not only de-escalate your client, but the police as well? A society can exist in which being transgender, a person of color, or mentally disabled is not a crime, and that opportunities should exist for all people. We need to end the stigma in which society devalues their lives and improve the circumstances by eliminating the hate and policing. Let us focus on correcting systematic flaws, demanding criminal justice reforms, increase mental health funding and intervention, and most importantly, end the abuse of power. In 2001, Amnesty International published a report called United States of America, Race, Rights, and Police Brutality, which highlights the problem of police using excessive force, including deadly force, against mentally ill or disturbed people who could have been subdued through less extreme measures. The trend of police arresting and criminalizing those in a mental health crisis has deadly consequences, but why is it so hard to get justice when this happens? Why has the most important federal laws, which was enacted to protect the rights of people with disabilities, including mental health disabilities, consistently been ignored and disregarded when it applies to law enforcement? And how does this happen in Berkeley, respected worldwide for disability rights? After 4 long years, we will finally see our day in court as we move forward with the American with Disabilities Act claim in October 23rd, 2017. Kayla's court case is for all those who have a disability, and any way the court rules, that determination will have long-term impacts on disability rights and police accountability, because it's not helping the mentally disabled that we fear. It's what happens if we don't. So with that being said, I wanted to just read a poem that Kayla had written when she is actually published. She was an author, she was a poet. When Kayla had a lot of behavioral issues when she was younger, she did a lot of fighting because she had to. You know, she's this, I guess, little femboy at the time, and you know, she didn't let the bullies bring her down. And if you wanted to step to her, she will step you down. And she was always having to fight. But this poem is just representing of her coming into her sexuality and just realizing that there are things going on within her, maybe signs of mental illness that she wasn't aware of at the time, but it was just so profound when I read it. It's called My Outer Skin. The time of day where I like to stay can open and release my shell, but the hurt within can start and begin. My outer skin, you can tell. The lies and comfort I gave myself, it's myself I'm starting to ask. The lies turned into clay, it hardened that day, and now I'm wearing a mask. One day will come, the hurt will run. The mask will peel off again. My life I'll face and give it a base. I'll shed my outer skin. So that was written by 15-year-old Kayla. Thank you. Towards the end of this, we're going to watch a little clip of a protest. Not a protest. It was more of a rally. I guess it was a protest. But it was done in 2016 when we finally started gearing up to court. And let me tell you, the process for justice is long. And for anyone who thinks that families are in this for money or for whatever reasons are insane, this has been a constant struggle, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's been 4 years in the making, and we finally get to court. So.
Thank you guys, everyone. I'm so pleased to see such wonderful faces and a great turnout. Like Andre mentioned, our family has been dealing with this tragedy, this murder that happened to Kayla, and that's exactly what it was. And what it is this was a case of torture. It was extreme, and it was unnecessary, and it was someone who was mentally ill, who was black, who was transgender, who 25 years ago would have been welcomed in Berkeley, but now she was killed.
One, we are the people. Two, a little bit louder. Three, we want justice for Kayla Moore. One, we are the people. Two, a little bit louder. Three, we want justice for Kayla Moore. One, we are the people. Two, a little bit louder. Three, we want justice for Kayla Moore. One, we are the people. Two, a little bit louder. Three, we want justice for
say first love to Maria, to the family, to the beautiful spirit of this beautiful sister, Kayla Moore. We all say her name, Kayla Moore! Kayla Moore!
It's unfortunate that, you know, we live in a society where it's a crime to be poor. How is it a crime to be poor by the same oppressors that put us in that position in the first place? You know, and I don't look at Kayla Moore as somebody that had a mental health issue. Kayla was oppressed. You have to clarify that. It's a difference between being oppressed and have a mental health issue.
The one thing that we did wrong was staying down too long. And the one thing that we did right was the day that we began to fight. No more, no more, no more auction block for me.
Thank you so much, Maria. So there is a sign-up sheet if you want to stay updated. For this, is it for the website? Yes. So if you want to stay updated for the website, please sign up on the sign-up sheet, and then you can pick up pamphlets as well for actions surrounding Justice for Kayla Moore. Okay, we are at our last speaker. Thank you everyone who has stuck through. This has been a beautiful event thus far. And so I would like to introduce Miss Melanie Brew, who holds the position of the first full-time tenure-track Chicana sociology professor at Modesto Junior College since its inception in 1921. Ms. Brew is currently a 2016-2017 Equity Leader in the Modesto Junior College Embedding Equity Faculty Institute, where she is working toward ending equity gaps for student success on campus. Ms. Brew has dedicated her entire adult life working with and for the betterment of her community. She has approximately 20 years of providing free educational, cultural, social, and recreational programs to and with marginalized communities in Stanislaus County as an applied sociologist. It is both in the classroom and in the community where Ms. Brew not only encourages people to be living examples of their study, but lovingly challenges herself to do the same. According to Ms. Brew, what good is any education if it does not go beyond institutional walls? So here, Ms. Melanie Brew.
Good afternoon. Kind of tall. There we go. There we go. There we go. I feel very privileged and honored to be here. So I want to really start off with gratitude. I'm grateful to be sharing this space with you, but I don't stand alone. Wherever I go, I bring my ancestors with me. So I really ask myself, whose shoulders do I stand on? When I come into a space, whose shoulders, again, am I standing on? I think of my mother and my father. I think of my grandparents. I think of the 7 generations of great-grandparents. I also believe in, I'm standing on the shoulders of freedom fighters that I believe in, that I've learned in college and beyond, that I carry their spirit with me when I'm in the classroom, or I'm in the community, or I'm in social gatherings. As we move along in regards to the time that we share together, I really encourage you to ask yourself, whose shoulders do you stand on? When you're in the college classroom, who's with you? When you walk the stage, for those of you that are going to walk the stage in May, who's with you? When you are in institutions, whose shoulders are you standing on? Because you are not alone, nor did you do this alone. So I really challenge folks to be able to challenge the colonized mind of the whole notion of, I did this myself. That is a dominant narrative that is a lie. There's people that spoke life into us. There's people that gave us an opportunity. There's people that talked us off of a ledge. There's people all around us that we're in relation with. And so I encourage you, as we share this time together, to ask yourself, whose shoulders do you stand on? I want to share with you a little bit about my hopes on my hope for today in regards to the information that I'm going to share. If you can change the slide here. So really my hope is to just share with you today. I think we can get caught up oftentimes, you know, in higher education, and I teach in higher education, with the institutionalization of it all. Like, I'm here and I know this and you know nothing, and we deposit information in blank minds. We know that's not true. I'm just simply here sharing information. I'm both a teacher and I'm a student always. So I'm sharing information. And I hope that we walk away seeing our reflection in others. It's in Lakesh. You are my other self and I am your other self. And so parts of my story, you may see your own reflection. And when you ask questions and we engage afterwards, that I may see myself in you. And then also that we walk away really reassessing our social location in the influence of all our relationships. We're constantly learning about the other. Always, even in social justice. And it's rare that we identify our social location, where our influence, where we're broken as service providers. And so that I really encourage you to challenge yourselves to be able to say, where is my social location in this issue, in this space? What influences me? And how do I influence others? And so that's my hope as we move forward today. I'm going to share first with my social location, right? A little bit about my story, a little bit about me. My story begins in Turlock. I was born and raised in Turlock, on the west side of town. It's predominantly, anyone from Turlock? Born and raised? No? Oh my goodness, what? So I was born and raised in Turlock, west side Turlock. It's known as the poor side of town. Overwhelmingly folks of color and poor whites. I owe a lot of gratitude for Turlock, and in particular West Side Turlock, and the Central Valley, which is my home. So I grew up in a lower middle class I grew up in a lower middle class family that had economic privileges that bubbled me and really sheltered me. And what I mean by that is that I never heard my parents argue about money. My parents own their home. They own their cars, plural. And so I grew up in this bubble of privilege. But my social location in that was that I also lived across the street from the projects where all my friends lived. Interesting location in particular as a young woman, a young girl that had a critical mind. Because poverty was up close and personal. I had that bubble of sheltered, but at the same time, I could reach the poverty. I was able to play with my friends and be able to go over there, and there's three sisters playing with one Barbie. And I was one person, well, two in my family, but I was the only one that played Barbies, and I had 25. It was symbolic. So I remember as a young little girl, I asked my mom, can you get me a case with wheels so I could wheel it across so we could share my Barbies? I think that was kind of a foreshadowing of things to come. So it was interesting that I had this critical mind, growing really, middle-class privileges, realizing I was being treated differently because of those privileges. Going to a poor school was known historically underperforming, but yet my best friend and I were treated with an elevated status. But my other friends weren't. And I was a little girl that questioned why? What's going on? And I didn't have the language until I learned about it in sociology in college. Then I realized, oh, well, that was some shit right there. That was some shit. So now again, I'm able to call it out. I was a young girl that always had a critical mind, and it was not seen as a positive thing because while my family is a hybrid of a traditional modern Mexican family, it still believed in obedience. And I was a young girl that wanted to know why? Not about being disobedient or defiant, but I just had a critical mind and I wanted to see the bigger picture. I wanted to know my social location as a child in the mix of things. Perhaps I was born a sociologist. But that was not awarded. If anything, my family had its limitations and they would shut me down because I said so. Shut up already, Melanie. You think too much, Melanie. And so that being shut down but at the same time, that lives in you, when you're like, when you honor your spirit, you're like, I'm supposed to keep asking questions. But as a little girl being shut down and living with that cognitive dissonance of like, this feels uncomfortable. And I always hung on to that spirit of always asking why. And so again, that was some of my experiences in terms of being a critical-minded young Chicana in a house that did not encourage critical thought. I also was introduced to dating violence in my first relationship. My first relationship was emotionally abusive, verbally abusive, also physically abusive in regards to restraining me. And that followed me, that haunted me for quite some time. I had years of being bullied, many, many, many years of being bullied. Never feeling comfortable in my own skin is really the theme of the majority of my life. No longer can I say that, but the majority of my life, that's the theme. Uncomfortable in my own skin. You see, I grew up in a home that was a very proud Mexican home, Mexican Chicano home, but I was also Mexican American, and my family didn't teach me Spanish, so my Spanish is very broken, and they were victims of assimilation, cultural genocide. And again, I didn't know that language until later. And so now I could have empathy and see my parents' humanity of why they didn't teach me Spanish, because they were victims of cultural genocide. And but I was too American for the Mexicans, and I was too Mexican for the Americans. And so I lived in the hyphen of Mexican American, resentful, angry, homeless, and just wanted to belong. But no one wanted to own me. No one wanted to be like, come on over here, right? So I lived with being uncomfortable for quite some time, and it wasn't until adulthood where I found my belonging. And not only did I find my belonging, I created places of belonging. And so I'm really appreciative of college. College is part of my story. I'm actually alumni of CSU Stanislaus. Hey, yeah, shout! And in sociology, but first my major was psychology. Mad love to psych majors too, mad love to psych majors. But I came in as a psychology major. I was in a committed relationship with psychology. And sociology whispered sweet nothings in my ear. It was like, hey, baby girl. And I'm like, no, I'm in a committed relationship. No. I like to say that I chose psychology, sociology chose me. Sociology chose me. And so it's been my longest love since. I fell in love with it at the age of 19. I'm older than 19. So yes, it was college where I actually found out my social location, in the sense that I found out that I wasn't as free as I thought I was. The dominant narrative of pull yourself up from your bootstraps, that we're free because we're American. It was in college where I was like, oh shit, I'm not as free as this dominant narrative. And who's creating this dominant narrative? Wait a minute. So I learned about my captivity in college. But I also learned about my liberation in college. Sociology giving me the language and the tools for my freedom. That while I might find myself in institutions that are bigger than myself, that regardless, I maneuver through spaces as a free woman in spaces that might not be so free. Right? And so I appreciate college for that, and then also for finding out for giving me a home. I went from living on the hyphen of Mexican American to being Chicana. It was through ethnic studies courses where I was able to say, that's what I am. Here to hear the instructor talk about it, and I'm like, dude's describing me. I'm like, man, Dr. Luevano, that's me, Dr. Luevano. I'm Chicana, right? I found a home immediately in that lecture. I'm so grateful for that. And so when I think about spaces where we might not be so free, I think about, do you guys all remember, maybe there's some of you remember, the 1977 famous miniseries Roots? Oh, it was a classic. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. It's like 8 hours, I think, right? Something like that. So I think about that famous sitcom, the famous miniseries. And this really introduces us to the family line of Alex Haley, and his ancestors from enslavement to liberation. And there's this scene that I don't know how many times I've watched it. It vibrates in me. I think it taps into aspects of ancestral memory in me. It beats like a drum. And the scene is where Kunta Kinte, who is a beautiful African Mandinka warrior, is captured and brought to the colonies. In this scene, he is shackled, and the overseer is getting him from this caged area because it's his time to be on the slave auction. And so they're bringing him, and he's chained up. His neck's chained, his arms are chained, his feet's chained. And they're pulling him like an animal. And as they're pulling him, everything in Kunta Kinte is being defiant, is hanging on to his liberation, his cultural pride, and who he is. And they're pulling him. And in terms of his body language, his facial expressions, resisting that. Because he's a free man. He knows he's a free man. And he looks around and he doesn't understand that he's seeing folks in black skin, but they look different and they act different. It's this, right? This scene in terms of resisting, I always think of, pause on that. So that whole scene, there's this onlooker looking at the scenario of the overseer pulling Kunta Kinte to the auction block. And the onlooker says, look at his eyes. He's not even close to being broken. I struggle to keep Kunta alive in the spaces that I'm in. I look for Kunta in others. Toyo Purina, an indigenous shaman freedom fighter, I look for Toyo Purina in people's eyes. And then when I'm in spaces of captivity, that I summon those ancestors to be able to say, how do we fight for freedom? What good is education if it does not go beyond institutional walls? What good is education if we're not talking liberation? What good is education if we are talking about just being comfortable on the plantation or comfortable on the reservation? Especially social work, especially sociology. We need to be talking about liberation, or we are doing disservice to ourselves and others. So again, looking at those eyes and being able to, because in some people, Kunta's lost. It's Toby. And so to be able to look and to be able to summons, you're in there. Or I'll feel him or Toyo Piri to come up, be decentered, and I feel it being lost in me. And then grab that spirit. No, to be centered. It's really through moments that I just kind of briefly mentioned in terms of college, finding out about my captivity, finding out about my liberation, domestic violence relationship, being bullied for so many years by like multiple groups of people, feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, not having a belonging. All of that darkness became my light. All of it became my light, transformed it. And it became my strength. And so I emerged from a house that wasn't able to appreciate critical thinking. But now I can be an educator that encourages critical thinking. That little girl, I'm honoring that little girl. It's okay. Think deeper. Push further. Help me grow. I'll help you grow. Right? And then also, all those years of feeling like I didn't belong, now I can create spaces of belonging. But maybe I wouldn't be able to create spaces of belonging if I didn't know if I didn't experience not belonging. That it became my gift of creating spaces of belonging. For all those times that I felt unsafe in social spaces, now I can co-create spaces of greater connection and of safety. I think about social justice and really the importance of moving away from being transactional to being transformative. Many times in our institutions, we talk about do this, do that, A plus B equals C, and it's all transactional. We're like robotic. Even within higher education, we've got to talk about truth to power. How are we being more transformative and less transactional? Oftentimes, the academy teaches us a lot about important theories and concepts and processes and tools, but it is rare that it teaches us to deeply explore ourselves. If we're going to be doing social justice work, we're part of the equation. How I've influenced you and how you influence me. I can't just examine the other. And then when we have our degrees, we have the authority to pathologize other people and not even take responsibility or accountability. Because being in a position of power and authority, I don't have to look at myself because I have the power to look at you and pathologize you. We have to check ourselves, especially when we have power and authority. Especially because we can create more harm and hurt more people if we don't. If we're lucky, we get those few classes where we learn about self and our social location and making this world a more just world. Oftentimes, the academy teaches us obedience, conformity, to think critically as long as it doesn't apply to our own institutions. I already have 1 minute? Holy smokes. Critical thought and critical processes have glass ceilings. We have to be able to think about how we want to be more transformative ourselves if we want to transform institutions. How can we transform institutions if we're not transformative? And transformative is a process. We don't just like, I'm transformative, I've arrived. Drop the mic. No. Sometimes we can go into spaces and we can say, I missed the mark. There's times when I'm in the class, I'm like, I totally was colonized in that space. And I have to like apologize to my students. I am so sorry. I will begin again, right? It requires humility. And so I had a whole bunch more to say, but I have a minute. But I think that it's important to be able to, again, how do we move from being transactional to being transformative? We have to start with self. But we jump to the other. We are ready. Let me be critical of the other, right? Let's back up. Where do we need healing? Where are we incomplete? How does my behaviors influence you? And how do you influence me? If we can, oh, there we go. Thank you. The takeaways. Okay, I got it. So the takeaways. So I hope that you walk away to be able to ask yourself, to go into spaces, either college spaces or whatever outside of the institution, to be able to ask yourself tonight, whose shoulders do you stand on? Who do you bring in the room? I'm less likely to disrespect you if I know your grandma's in the room and your auntie and the freedom fighters. I'm more likely to hear you, and you're more likely to hear me because you know my grandma's in the room. To be able to assess your social location and the influence in all social relations, to acknowledge the importance of continued self-work, and to be transformative in a transactional world. I'll end in this note, if we can go to the next slide with Marcus Garvey's quote here. The ends you serve that are selfish will take you no further than yourself, but the ends you serve that are for all in common will take you to eternity. Marcus Garvey. Thank you so much.
All right, I want to give one more round of applause to all of our wonderful speakers today. Thank you all so much for coming out and providing such a powerful, wonderful message. I hope you all are able to take something home with you today and create transformative change in your own communities, and really create some action from things that you've heard today. I did want to acknowledge that this event would have not been possible without the following sponsors. I do also want to send a special shout out to my project chair, Dr. Valerie Leyva, for supporting me through this event. Also, all the volunteers, and of course, for my family. My husband, yeah. I feel like he did this right alongside me, so thank you very much, honey. I would, with respect to all of your time, I would like to end and allow all of you guys some time to look at the art around the room, okay? Thank you so much. Oh, what? Paul has a question. Oh, thank you. Thank you.